So we're going to discuss today is the update that we have done recently to our L2 Advanced Electronic Diesel Engines test. As we go through this, again, if you have questions, please feel free to type those into the questions area, and Dan will be replying there, or he may jump in and bring the question to the group and cover that way. So with me today is Derek Bryant. He's one of our newer folks into the ASE test development group. Derek,
Hello.
say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for being here, Derek.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob.
Okay. Yes, sir.
This is Dan here. Can you just check and make sure that had Larry post that he couldn't see his PowerPoint? He may not have been able to find it on the screen, but if you guys could just make sure that you're seeing Bob's PowerPoint. We're good, Bob. You can roll.
Yep, we can see it, and we've got an attendee view here that I'm monitoring as well from the outside, and all looks good.
Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to be going over today is briefly a little bit about ASE. We're going to talk about what we've updated on the L2 composite vehicle. We'll go over some study material for diesel engines tests. And then, of course, at the end, we'll take any more of your questions. So ASE has created a mission statement that we've updated recently. I'll give you a second to read through that. Again, within our test development group, along with Dave Kappert, our main concern or our main issue here, our main thing we focus on here is, of course, the technician, the end user. That's where we came from in the beginning of our service history, and that's where we keep our focus is on our technicians. So about ASE, we started in 1972. We have 48 years of growth, 48 years of experience. We started with only 4 tests in the automotive. We've now built it to 50 tests. We have 10 test series complete. Our test series, automobile, I've highlighted medium heavy truck, our school bus and our transit bus, because those are most directly affected by our L2 advanced level test. You see some of the other ones that we have there. ASE is known as a national credential. We are recognized not only by the OEM and the aftermarket. We work closely with all the industry segments, as we showed earlier, body collision, paint, school bus, transit bus. When we say we are industry developed, everything we do here at ASE is industry driven, meaning that we don't come up with ideas of what test to start. The industry comes to us. We work with groups to decide what is the appropriate pathway to take for a lot of tests and segments. We are industry developed, which means that we do work with the OEMs, we work with hands-on technicians, trainers, things like that. We bring these folks in to help us develop it, and we also bring them in to help us maintain these tests. So by maintaining, we do workshops on each of our individual tests every 2 to 3 years, meaning we review the content, the questions, what's covered in them to make sure that we're staying current and still relevant in the industry. We all know that the industry is changing rapidly right now with telematics, with ADAS, with things like that. So we try to stay involved as best we can to make sure that we show current content in our tests and our questions. Some of the benefits to our certifications: it's a national, portable, and stackable credential. Again, meaning that we certify the technician, the end user. So the technician is able to continue to build upon the credentials he has or she has. Portable, meaning they can take them with them. The other bullet points, of course, you can see higher income potential, greater job opportunities, things like that. What's in it for me? So we did a survey, pardon me, we had a company that did a survey with fleet managers. These some of the numbers that we got back from those folks regarding preference in hiring. More likely to fix it first, fix it correctly the first time. So we're going to talk briefly about getting signed up with My ASE and getting logged in. So you'll notice up on the top of our page, if you jump into www.ase.com, this is the page that will pull up. Register now for your quick links. Everything we do as far as registrations are all done online only. We have you create a My ASE page, your My ASE link, pardon me. And that's so that you can track your progression as you go through. Another link, if you go under tests up there in the center, it will pull up this page to help you find a test center that's close to you. When we say find a seat, to verify that the test center does have a schedule and a seat available for you. There's a video preview down here that is helpful. A lot of our folks who have not taken an ASE test before, this gives them a video walkthrough of what to expect when they get to the test center. Dan, would you like to jump in here and add to that, sir?
Sure can. I was chasing some questions in the questions pane. So on this page here, Bob, go back one slide just really quickly,
Yes,
just so we can show them. So currently, if you click on the register now or the My ASE links, you can go there and confirm that or make appointments, look at your My ASE account, see what test you're certified in and the like. Moving forward to the next slide, Bob. So when you want to find out if a seat is available, when you can click on the find a seat to locate seats and determine if there's testing in your area. And to determine if there's testing in your area, so you can go to find a test center to find the closest local test center. We also do post on a regular basis on the lower right-hand corner here under the news segment, satellite centers or new centers available from Prometric. There's almost 500 centers out there right now, and we go from there. So good enough. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Dan. So we partner with a company called Prometric. Prometric not only does all of our ASE testing, of course, but they also do other folks as well. They do nurses, animal vets, dentistry, things like that. So for the auto truck technicians, the first experience can be a bit off-putting. They do have a high security measures there, very similar to if you've ever flown before. You know, you go through the metal detector or they wand you or pat you down. Just be aware of that if you have first-time test takers, that they should expect to spend a few extra minutes going through there and to be checked. They've emptied their pockets, put their cell phones down, things like that. So again, back onto our ASE page, we have test prep and training. If you click on this link, there's things here that will be helpful to them. They can click on the study guides that are here that will give them a breakdown of the content of each of the tests. We do have some official ASE practice tests for the truck side. Right now, they're currently diesel engines, truck brakes, truck electrical, and PMI. We are still working on the other gasoline engines, steering and suspension, things like that. We have all of the automotive style practice tests out there also. There's some other good things here, test taking tips that may be helpful for them. Just some points that we try to reiterate all the time about, you know, when reading the questions, to take your time, only read what's there. And again, there's the ASE test taking demo to kind of walk them through what to expect when they read the question, how to read the question. They can flag a question. They can mark things out. They can highlight certain content. So this gives them a little bit of a chance to go through and review the stuff before they get to the test center. So let's get into the L2, the Advanced Diesel Engines Test. So it's designed as an advanced level test, of course, for any of our medium heavy truck technicians, but this is also applicable for any of our diesel engines test technicians who've taken those before. So we have the A9 light duty diesel engine, we have the transit bus, school bus, and truck diesel engines test. The prerequisites for the L2, of course, are the diesel engines tests, but also any, they have to be partnered with any of the electrical tests, whether it's A6 automotive, H6, which is transit electrical, in any combination. So they can take an A9 diesel engines test, even though it's light duty, and take a T6 electrical test on the truck side to get their prerequisite to be able to sign up to take the L2. So if you have any questions on that, we'll go over that again a little bit later if you'd like us to. So this is the new updated, revised in 2020. This is what we call the CV4. This is the gray book. Make sure that you download and review this before you go to take your new test. We started with the CV3 version that we have updated to this version. We went from, I believe, 24, 25 pages. The new CV4 has 48 pages. So there's an awful lot more content there. We go into a different fuel system. We have exhaust after treatment. We have electrical. We have backbone. We have a lot of stuff there that we'll review as we go forward. But it's critically important that folks that are getting ready to take this get the book beforehand and review it before they get there to take the test. It's also very important when you get to the test center that you make sure they give you the correct book. We have not had any instances yet where you've been given the wrong book, the CV3, but just absolutely make sure they give you the new updated book. Now, with that being said, Dave Kappert has put handouts over that are attached to this, and it is the new CV4 gray book, which you see here. We also have the CV4, which is the white book, and that will give you your task list, the content of questions, how many questions in each area, things like that. And it's got some practice test questions associated with it as well. So we've added some control modules into the new L2. Of course, the engine control module was there previously, but has been updated. We now have a transmission module. We now have a automated mechanical transmission that goes with this truck. We have a body control module and the instrument cluster module. There's other modules there to some extent, but these are the ones that we give you a real complete breakdown that directly attached to the engine. We do have the exhaust after treatment system with some of the modules there as far as the sensors go. And we'll go into that a little bit as we get into the diagrams and stuff also. So this is our new fuel system. This is for the composite vehicle. This is high pressure common rail. Spent a lot of time with our manufacturers and with our hands-on techs and our trainers to come up with something that was applicable for pretty much everybody out there. Some of the images here might be a little fuzzy in the book. I promise they're much cleaner and nicer looking. As you can see, you've got a lot of call outs there. So I will add in that this is the system that's covered in the composite vehicle. There are still going to be some generic questions on the CV4 on the L2 test. So the CV4 will be directly to this fuel system, but there'll be some generic questions in the test as well that do with other fuel systems that aren't directly what you're going to see here. I don't believe there's many UE type questions in there any longer. I know that there's some EUI type questions. So this is applicable directly to the CV4, the image you see here.
And for some of you guys,
Go ahead, Derek.
and for some of you guys that are running DDEC systems, do notice that this is not an amplified common rail system. This was one of the things that got brought up in discussion about what type of fuel system to design. If you're familiar with the amplified common rail, you should be fine with this, but be aware that there are those operational differences if you work on nothing more than DDEC systems.
Thanks, Derek. Good point. Okay, our next slide, we talk about the backbone and the bus systems, the networks. So you'll notice up on the top is the public backbone bus system. Our transmission, electronic control actuator, things like that are up on the top. You'll note our two 120 ohm terminating resistors at the end of both of those. ECM is in the center. Then on the bottom, we have our private bus network. So we've added in an awful lot more stuff here. For instance, our after treatment temperature sensors, our DEF quality, particulate matter. So there's a lot more stuff that's here. So this is basically on our engine side. You'll notice that we have the 3-pin data link connector here in the engine compartment. We've also got our 9-pin up here in the cab. On this one, we've got the 120 ohm resistor built into the VGT actuator, and the others at the end of the bus. So we've got our NOx in sensors, our NOx out sensors. So as you see, we're going to go into the exhaust treatment system pretty heavily. This is a general overview of our exhaust after treatment system. So this is our inline 6-cylinder diesel engine here. Our after treatment fuel pressure sensor. I apologize, it's a little grayer than it should be. Our after treatment fuel shutoff, our purge valve. So we have all our system built out here. We have our DEF tank set up over here with our DEF heater. And again, all these will be spelled out in the CV4 booklet about how the systems work, how the sensors work, explanation about our sensors, things like that. That's why it's so critically important we get the booklet out to our techs taking the test before they get to the test center. Derek, did I miss anything on the exhaust after treatment system?
No, we've got the big change is adding SCR from beforehand, where we did not have an SCR system in. We just had the diesel oxidation catalyst. And again, to iterate what you had just said a moment ago, this book, you definitely want to go over it before you end up in the test center. The previous book was 20 pages and we've over doubled it to 43. So there's a lot more information out there just to get yourself familiar with it, so you're not looking for it in the test center for the first time.
With the clock counting down as you're trying to take the test and become familiar with the book.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Thanks, Derek. So along those lines, what I will share with our folks that are listening in, if our technicians are taking any of our diesel engines tests, or if they're just getting into the industry and they want to understand the systems better, this is a really good training booklet for them to have. Even if they're not going to take the L2, it just as far as study material, this is a really good resource for them to have in their possession to review this stuff. Okay, we do updates on some sensors. This first one is about the inputs. And we have an awful lot of inputs. This is the sensors that report to the ECM. Again, this is material that the technician should find useful in their day-to-day operation. So even if they don't take the test, if they just review the stuff and they look over the sensors and the breakout and how they work, the wiring diagrams, things like that, will be very helpful material for them to have. Again, we talk about new information for the fuel system and all the sensors associated with that. We discuss temperature sensors, including EGR and exhaust temps. We go over a little bit more into the new transmission type of sensors, the speed sensors, things like that. First time we've added in a WIF, a water and fuel sensor. That's become critically important anymore, so we thought it was due to add that in there. Then our inputs for our switches. Of course, we have all the switches that control the diesel particulate filter regens and the inhibit operations. Again, we talk about the transmission shift controls. We've changed the engine brake controls and switches. We've broken down the ignition switch and its operation a bit more. So we go into some in-depth explanation about how the system works. The feedback we've gotten from our techs so far who've seen the new test and the questions have been positive. The only thing I will share is the first folks who have taken this test, it was a 75 question test. We have not got the pass score out to those folks yet. That's due to be delivered sometime in early June. So I know there'll be some folks in here asking, how come I don't have my scores yet? It takes some time. We have to get all the answers back, all the tests back, to review all the stuff to make sure the new content performs and our data is correct. And then we'll pull a group of technicians together and they will actually set the pass score for the test. So that's the reason you've not got your scores yet. Then we talk about our outputs and the actuators and indicators. Again, a lot of new information on the after treatment system, DEF control systems, fuel delivery, things like that. Derek, any other input you'd like to share with me on that, sir?
Everything that we've updated does come to can be found in the book. I mean, the biggest thing is to look through this, especially for sensor operation. You know how the sensors operate on the vehicles that you work on every day, and they're very similar, but just make sure that you're not going to substitute in your own head a value that you're used to seeing every day, and our vehicle may be slightly different, which is standard for any of our advanced level tests, L1, L3, L2.
Good input, Derek. I appreciate that. So again, the L2 composite vehicle we've crafted here. It's our own vehicle that we've pulled our subject matter experts together and created this composite vehicle. It's not exactly like any manufacturer's engine controls or anything else like that. It's very similar in theory and operation. So understand what Derek is saying is you should really get the CV4 booklet and review it first to make sure you understand that, you know, we all look at things from our point of view. So if you're a Freightliner dealer, this composite vehicle will be very close, but may not be exact. So just make sure that when you review this, that you make sure what we're asking you on the questions on this particular composite vehicle.
And we have all of our publications available on ASE.com. You can go on there and look at the study guides. You can print them off there, or if you request, you can send in an email and request paper copies also.
Good point, Derek, and we can mail you those as many as you'd like, especially if we have any educators on here and they'd like to have a handout that they can physically give to the students. I'll be happy to send you as many of those as you require. That's not a problem at all.
Only issue I think we might have, Bob, this is Dave, I'm just jumping in, is right now with, things being the way they are, our distribution center is kind of locked up.
Valid point, Dave. Thank you. So yes, it might take me a little while to get those out to you, but if you request them, I'll do my best to get them to you. So right now, as Dave has indicated, most of us are working remotely, and our shipping department is not here at the moment. But again, once we get back and get everybody back up to speed, we'll be happy to ship those out to you. Thanks, Dave. Good point. Okay, our next slide, we're going to go over the test questions you're going to see in your L2 test. So this is for the normal 45 question test you're going to see. There are going to be 20 generic questions on your test, and the questions are not going to be something you have to have your CV4 booklet for. There'll be the first 20 questions. I take that back. I can't say that now because we now rotate our questions. So the questions that you're going to see, again, understand when I say generic, there'll be questions about EUI, there'll be questions about older type of turbochargers, there'll be things that don't directly correlate to the CV4 booklet. Then we'll have 25 questions that definitely call out the composite vehicle in the stem of the question, in the question itself, that you will need to go back and look at the CV4 booklet to trace wire circuits, to look at fuel delivery, look at sensor operation, things like that. Then on our full length test, there'll be 10 new pre-test questions built into the test. So of course you won't know which 10 questions are the pre-test questions, so you're gonna need to answer all of the questions, except for the recertification test. That's only gonna be 45 questions total. There'll be no pre-test questions in the recert test. Okay, then on to our question styles. We have our completion, which basically, as you read it, there'll be the answer will be a completion to the question. Pretty direct, pretty straightforward. Is our next style, where we ask you a question and give you 4 options. We have our Tech A, Tech B style questions. I would like to share with you, if I could, that's probably one of the ones I get the most comments on. Technician Tech A and Tech B questions are sometimes misunderstood, that they think that these two technicians are discussing the topic. A lot of the training that we see here at ASE lends some credence to that statement. We'll have 2 technicians are discussing and some of the training material. For ASE, on our questions, it's best to read our Tech A, Tech B questions as 2 standalone true or false statements, meaning technician A says whatever his statement is that a true or false statement? Then read technician B's statement. Again, standalone true or false statement. Is that true or false? Then who is correct? Technician A only, technician B only, both Tech A, Tech B are true, or neither technician A and B are true. So take your time, slow down, and just read them as individual true or false statements, please. Then we have our accept questions. These questions perform well. We have noticed that we get some comments about the accept questions make our technicians look at the question, read the question opposite what they're used to doing. Our technicians are used to finding the problem, what would cause a truck to crank and not start. They're not used to looking at things, what wouldn't cause the truck to crank and not start. So we're backing off on the number of accept questions. They're still there, they still work. You'll still see an occasional accept question, but hopefully over time you'll see fewer and fewer of those. Again, they perform well. We're just trying to make it more truly like the shop environment that our technicians are used to working on. Derek, any comment on that? Did I miss anything?
No, you did very well. A lot of guys with Tech A, Tech B, again, just to iterate what you said, they're not talking to each other. Imagine they're not even in the same building, they're in different states. And again, is Tech A statement true or false? Is Tech B statement true or false? And that's where a lot of people go to, because we're so used to speaking to each other in the shop, trying to solve problems, that whenever we hear about 2 statements, we're thinking we're talking about the same issue, but in this instance, we are not.
And as Derek,
go ahead, Dave. Just jump in for a second. No, one of the things I wanted to just add real quickly is that you touched on it earlier, Bob, about the test taking tips. We do have a walkthrough there. If you go into the test preparation and then the test taking tip, there's like a little, it's kind of like a little walkthrough e-learning thing that illustrates perfectly these different question types and gives you samples of each one of them, and you can click through and you can play with them. It gives you feedback. So I would recommend everyone to visit that, so you really do become familiar with the different ASE question styles.
Excellent, thank you, Dave.
The other thing to do with these questions is not to read too much into them. Use the information that it's given to you in the question. Everything that you need to answer it is there. Things that have happened to you once or twice and maybe never happen again, we're not going to, these questions do not perform well, so they're not going to end up in our tests. So don't read too much into it.
Great point, Derek. I appreciate that and reminding me. So our technicians are root cause failure kind of folks. They always look for some deep hidden meaning. So when you read an ASE test question, only read what's there. The pertinent data should be in the stem, will be in the stem of the question to give you the information you need to get to the answer. As Derek is insinuating or getting to is, we a lot of times associate a vehicle that we struggled with because it really sticks in our mind, and we start to add things, our own life experiences into the question, and a lot of times it'll lead us off track. So when we say only read what's there, don't read too deeply, don't look, for some hidden message. That's what we mean by that. Okay, training resources. Of course, we always recommend you go to your manufacturers. If you're Cummins folks or Navistar, reach out to your parts suppliers. There's a lot of folks there that have training and information that sometimes we don't get to see into the shop environment. But if you have parts suppliers that you deal with quite a bit, you can request information, and usually they're happy to give it to you. Parts houses, things like that, sometimes are good sources. Schools, community colleges, trade schools, stuff like that. Community colleges are fantastic. They've got some great programs. You might have to do a little research to find them. Textbooks and study guides, even some community locations, whether it be at a library or a used bookstore or something like that. A lot of times they've got some good stuff there. And then, of course, as a fallback, we always recommend if you have a particular issue that you're struggling with, whether it's voltage drop, whether it's, anything along those lines, high pressure common rail fuel systems, we say GTS, Google that stuff, go do some research, go find out. There's a ton of information out there that's free. Some of it's not always 100%, we understand, but there's a lot of good stuff out there that you can find if you take a little time to go do a little research and look around.
And again, a lot of these places put their information. One thing that's different from the truck industry, from the auto industry, is that there's a lot more sharing of information. They'll put a lot of this out there on the web. Engines tends to be one of the areas where they keep it a little closer to the chest, but you can go to a lot of your aftermarket parts suppliers and they have training out there, Bosch, Mahle. When you get into brakes, Meritor, Bendix, things like that, they're all over the place out there. And they do have some good programs to help you out, refresh you.
Great point, Derek. So, we recommend, there's a lot of stuff out there, like from Bendix for brake systems. There's also some stuff out there for ADAS through Bendix. Any of the stuff that you're dealing with quite a bit, whether it's Meritor transmissions, Spicer clutches, Allison transmissions, there's tons and tons of stuff that's out there. To Derek's point, it's not readily available. You have to go do a little research and try to find the stuff. That's when we say, reach out to your manufacturers, whether it's a engines manufacturer, transmissions, brakes. There's a lot of stuff out there. You have to do a little work to find it, but there is some good stuff that's there. Good point, Derek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just some test taking tips we'll go over real quick. Again, the most important for any of our advanced level tests is download and be familiar with the booklet. For L2, it's CV4. For L1, it's the newest version is also, I believe, CV4. Dan, I think that's correct. Be well rested, arrive early at the testing center, be prepared to go through airport style security when you get there. So if we have some folks who haven't taken a test yet or haven't taken it in some time, we don't get to sit in the high school auditorium with 500 of our closest friends anymore. We now basically go sit at a computer screen and take a test that way. So be prepared that you're going to be a little higher security level than what you're used to. Again, we talked about reading each question for the content. Don't go too far into it. Don't look too deeply. Just analyze what's there in the question in front of you. Don't go, look for some deep hidden meaning. Do take the information at face value. So if you're a Cummins guy and you're seeing a question that doesn't exactly fit your Cummins application, don't go off on the tangent towards the Cummins information you're used to. Just read what's there. The stuff, I won't say it's generic, but it's specific enough to the question we're asking you. The answer is there in the question. The material is there. Okay, so real quick, the handouts that Dave had attached here, on the left is the ASE, the CV4, that's what we call the gray book. That's got the composite vehicle, all the breakdowns, 40-some pages of really interesting information that's very helpful. The right one is what we call the white book. It gives you the overview of the test specifications, how many questions will be in each content area. It goes over the task list. It gives you some sample questions, gives you some links to some industry training, things like that. These two books are really, really critically important that you look at before you go take the test. The gray book, I can't ask you enough to please download that book and review that before you get there. A lot of good information, even if you're not taking the L2 test, T2, H2, S2, A9, there's a lot of good material there that really simplifies and gives a good breakdown of what's going to be covered there. So please take the time to get that book. You'll look to the right, I'm Bob Cornwell, that's my email address. Derek is also on here with us, that's his email address. Derek and I are primarily responsible for the L2 test, the school bus test, truck and transit. So any questions you guys have, anything we can do to help you folks with any of these, please feel free to. Dan, jump in here and fill in what I missed there, sir.
Bob, could you go back to the prerequisite slide? There were some questions about that. That would be helpful.
Sure. Give me a second to jump back. I apologize if I make anybody dizzy from going through here too quickly. So prerequisites for being able to take the L2 is any of our diesel engines test, which are in the parens to the left. A9 is light duty diesel engines. H2 is transit bus. S2, S stands for school bus, and then T is for truck. So those are our diesel engines offerings and our tests. So you can have any one of those diesel engines tests in combination with any of our electrical tests, which are to the right. Again, A is auto, A6, H6 is transit bus electrical, school bus electrical, and truck electrical. So you can take any of those diesel engines and any of the electrical test in a combination. It doesn't have to be in the same series. It can be in different series, and that will give you your pathway to be able to take your L2 advanced level diesel engines test. What else did I miss there, Dan?
Angel says he really appreciates that very much, and so does Kelly. So they wanted to get back to that screen. We've done a really nice job of answering many of the questions. Just to confirm that, can you talk a little bit more about what's currently happening and when folks can expect to see a normal length test versus the pull ahead version that is going on right now?
Yes, I can. So if memory serves me correctly, we'll get our pass score in early June for the folks who have already taken the test or who are taking the test currently. And I believe that the regular length 45 question test with 10 pre-test questions will also launch at the same time in June. And then, of course, our research test will be only 45 questions without the 10 additional pre-tests. Does that answer that okay for you, Dan?
Yes, it does. And then to be clear, the booklets again are available in the downloads pane on the toolbar for this webinar. They're also available at www.ase.com. And if you go to the test prep and training tab, it's usually on the right-hand side, upper right-hand corner, maybe down about a quarter of the page. There's a test prep and training button. Click on that, then go to study guides, and then you can download the booklets from there and get a copy immediately. Yeah, Bob's, I think I've got the questions pane in front of me. Yeah, there you go. And then under study guides on the left-hand side there under the blue bar that says test prep and training, you click on that, it'll say study guides, download the guides. You can go there, you can order guides, paper copies to be printed and sent to you. However, that is not going to happen until our ASE distribution center opens back up. But you can certainly send that request in. And then you can also do the electronic version, the PDF version, and look at that. There's some questions related to the advanced level tests and how we're going to use, if they're going to be available in the ASE renewal app. For those of you who are not familiar, the renewal app is a way to maintain your credential through viewing items that kind of focus your attention to things that you might not be as familiar with, some advanced technology, and then more can be seen on that at www.aserenewalapp.com. So head there, but there are no plans currently to add L1, L2, or L3 right now, but that doesn't mean that they're not thinking about it. So can't tell you anything beyond that. I don't know anything. We're outside the office, and those other people are involved in that. There are work experience requirements for any ASE test. It's 2 years for anything in the truck, transit bus, or school bus area, and 3 years for this advanced level test. And there, as for registration, Michael's asking about registering without having the 30-minute introduction. No, we don't have a way for you to get around that. So enough about that.
Thanks, Dan. All good input. I appreciate that. Along the app that Dan was discussing, we're struggling just a little bit, or we're trying to figure out the most efficient way for the advanced level tests. Of course, any of those has to have a composite vehicle that's attached with that. So that becomes a challenge to be able to look at that on the app on your phone, plus answer the question. So that's the struggle we're having with that right now, is to how to make that more efficient for our test takers.
Okay, just right now, all test centers are closed. There's no other way to take an ASE test, but you can do the renewal app. I urge you to go look at that if you currently have credentials in the automobile series only.
Great input, Dan. I appreciate that. And yes, to Dan's point, it's on the auto series only that we have the app available for you right now. We don't have it on the truck side yet. There is discussions about when that's going to happen. We're also looking at the paint collision series of tests. But for right now, again, the struggle we have is most all of us are out of the office. So as I'm sure you're all dealing with the same social distancing things that we are. So for right now, I don't see us adding anything to the app beyond what we currently have going, which is on the automotive side.
Be aware that the app is also available to you if your credentials have expired, so you can still go in and take advantage of the app if need be.
Good point, Derek. Thank you. And that brings up another point of, even if your certifications have expired for a couple of years, you can come back, and when you sign up for the test, you'll only be taking the recertification test. You don't have to take the full length all over again. If you've been certified in the past, when you sign up again, you'll only be taking the recerts, not the full lengths. And I'm going to jump back to the end with Derek and my contact information in case somebody didn't get a chance to get that yet. Again, I apologize if I make anybody dizzy with all of this. Dan, any other questions there, sir?
So for folks that are looking for confirmation that they attended and participated in this webinar, a certificate, as said at the beginning, a certificate will be available. We'll be sending some emails out in the next, well, Friday or Monday. You should see an email in your inbox regarding this, as well as links to how you can review this webinar online. We do offer most of our webinars that we've done in the past. The history of those can be found at YouTube, and you can search there for ASE Campus, and that's where our webinars are found. Now, many of you have sent in questions. Now we'll try to address those offline as best we can. So that will happen again also later. Again, we're working it from home, so it's just like you, trying to adapt to what's happening fast and furious. So thank you.
And then Dan also had a good point with our www.ase campus. That's a really good link to have for our folks as well. That's going to get you towards our 609 certification. There's also some other stuff that on there that might be helpful for our technicians as well. So if you have any questions on any of that, drop Derek or myself an email. We can either get you an answer or we can reply through Dave and get you all the information that you're looking for. So reach out to either one of us or any of us at any chance, and we'll be happy to help any way we can.
And Bob, this is Dave. An important distinction I might want to add is anybody that is interested in 609, that is available online at the ASE campus site that Bob mentioned, and you can earn your credential online right away. So you don't have to go to a test center for that.
Good point, Dave. Thank you. And they can actually, once they complete an online version, they can print a temporary card that they can carry with them to be able to do refrigerant repair until they get the one in the mail. Is that correct?
That's right. And also gives them the legal ability to buy refrigerant, which a sales restriction went into place back on January 1 of 2018.
Got it. Excellent input, Dave. Thank you very much. Okay, Dan, any other questions that I need to get to, sir?
I think you're pretty good there, Bob. I could call that a wrap.
Okay, Dave, anything else I forgot from your end, sir?
I don't think so. Just to close the thing up, I just want to thank everyone for attending and share your valuable time with us. Hopefully you've learned something about the new L2 test. I just would like to mention real quickly that Dan mentioned again that the session was recorded. So if you want to review it later on, you sure can do that. A follow-up email will include the video link to go ahead and access it. And as Dan mentioned also, there will be a certificate of attendance for attending this webinar today. So with that, on behalf of Derek Bryant, Bob Cornwell, Dan Baumhart, and myself, Dave Kappert, I want to thank everyone for attending. We look forward to seeing you at another ASE webinar soon. Take care, everyone.